Welcome to your Bitcoin merchant tutorial. Today we are going to be going over the checkout appearance section in the store settings drop-down menu. If you haven't already, we covered the primary settings page in another video, and this is a continuation of that one. Check any show notes or our social media pages for more information. The checkout appearance page is an important part of your store settings, which will control a significant portion of your customer's checkout experience. Some of that includes invoice QR codes, user interface layout, what amounts trigger an on-chain versus a lightning or liquid one, as we'll see right away. So let's click on our settings to display the drop-down menu on the left-hand side, and we'll go to checkout appearance. So here we can see our first drop-down that will control our default payment method on checkout. We have two options here. A third one may display, and I'll cover that after I cover these. So BTC-LN is going to be your Lightning payment option, which incorporates both liquid and Lightning payments utilizing your Bolts plugin. So you don't need to worry about specifically liquid. The next one here is going to be BTC-Chain. This is going to be for direct on-chain transactions for your invoices. Using on-chain directly would be more ideal for larger amounts, potentially over $1,000, but this can be based on your personal preference and your own security. And also if time is not a priority in transacting. The last option that also may appear here is going to be BTC-LN URL. If you do see this here, it's a redundant feature, and this functionality is already handled in other parts of your store, specifically the crowdfund tab and the pay button in your plugins on the left-hand side. For example, this would be for having an invoice QR code that doesn't expire or provides a donation link where a user can send any amount they desire from their Lightning wallet. This section is set up ahead of time just to give you an example on how to best utilize this page with some recommendations and also how it interacts with different elements of your store. So this is an important aspect of invoice automation, as it will preset and determine amounts an invoice will be in, whether that is liquid or Lightning, or if it's an on-chain transaction. Your drop-down menu here can be set to greater than or less than, with a corresponding amount in your default currency. So how this is set up right now is that if I have a transaction under $1,000, it will be charged only in liquid or Lightning. It will not accept an on-chain transaction. And likewise here, if I have an amount greater than $1,000 Canadian, it will only accept on-chain and will not accept a liquid or Lightning. Next, you have a checkout section here with a drop-down right beside, and this allows you to optimize for an online checkout or a storefront checkout. Physical in-store terminals and devices can still use this preset with the majority of functionality required to present invoices. The primary difference that the in-store provides will be NFC tap functionality within your store interface. This would primarily be used for accepting Bolts cards and requires a special POS machine to utilize this. We won't be discussing this here as we have a separate tutorial for utilizing that tool specifically. Online checkout is fine for now. Here we have an option to display a timer for a certain number of minutes before your invoice expires, and will display the countdown on the invoice page. Again, this is just for the timer. This does not set invoice expiry. Here you have an aesthetic option for your invoices. Confetti will appear when the invoice initially shows it as successfully paid. You can also enable sounds alongside successful payment and even provide custom files. Here otherwise, a default is available. The store header just shows the name of your store at the top of the invoice page. The Show Pay in Wallet button is for optimizing online checkout convenience by allowing a user to use their computer desktop wallet to pay for the invoice, and it will appear underneath every invoice QR code. This will only work if the customer's wallet supports Lightning or on-chain, depending on the payment method the invoice accepts. The Unify on-chain and Lightning payment URL/QR code toggle is very useful, and it helps streamline invoice creation. This effectively combines all payment information from your store wallet into one QR code, so you don't have to select Lightning, Liquid, or on-chain payment options. You simply set the amount, and the customer's wallet will scan and only take the relevant information required to make payment, safely ignoring on-chain if the invoice is Lightning or vice versa. Here below, you can display Lightning payment amounts in Satoshis, otherwise known as sats, instead of whole Bitcoins. This is more a personal preference and depends on how you want you and your customers to read invoices. Next, you can set this if you want to detect the customer's language on checkout in a browser. This would be more aimed at online checkout specifically and not in-store use. Right below in the dropdown, you can set your default language on checkout. And here for this field, the custom HTML title to display on checkout page is utilized to change the text in the tab that displays on a checkout invoice. I will quickly show you an example of how that's utilized. I will click on my point of sale app I created down here. So point of sale, this is an app I created, product list and checkout. Again, we have another video that covers a point of sale app creation if you want to check that out. So I'll click on the app page. And now I can see here that I have my product list with cart. I saved this already, so I'm going to go to view. Now, this brings me to the product checkout. A customer can then select, buy whatever quantity of items you already have predetermined. They'll go to pay. And you can see at the top of our tab that custom HTML text appears here. So now we're back at our customer checkout appearance page, and we're going to cover our support URL field. So essentially what this does, as it says, a contact us button with a link will be shown on the checkout page. So essentially this will display underneath your invoices. So I'll give you a quick example of this. So I am in a keypad app I created. Again, go to our point of sale app creation tutorial video for more information on this. So I'm going to create an invoice. We have our invoice here, and just below we see the contact us button. If you click on that, that will bring you to the support URL, and it's that simple. So moving on to our next toggle, only enable the payment method after user explicitly chooses it. This just allows a customer another barrier to actually choose to move on to the payment method. Here we have redirect invoice to redirect URL automatically after paid. This does just as it says it does. If you have your redirect URL set up in your point of sale app, then this toggle will enable that. If you want to learn more about this, reference our point of sale tutorial to learn more. So moving on to our receipt header here, we have enable public receipt page for settle invoices. So that initial invoice that we set up, this will enable our customer to consistently access the invoice that they paid for. They will always be able to access that page and provide it to anyone else. Similarly down here, this is a little different. So in regards to the show payment list in public receipt page would only apply if a customer pays for an invoice multiple times or uses a combination of on-chain and Lightning payments to settle an invoice. When this is enabled, once the invoice is settled, then the list will appear and be publicly accessible. If this is not on, then it would just default to the total amount paid for displaying if having the above toggle enabled, one up here. And then finally, the last toggle enables public access to the receipt link and QR code to print. Like the other toggles, disabling this will only make it visible within your store instance within invoices. So just an example of this, on a successfully paid invoice, you can go to the receipt, and then this is the link that would be accessible to that. That's all for this tutorial. Thank you for watching, and keep stacking sats.